We are going to Jarrens Outpost to do, well, quite bad things. But we want prestige. We want people to know who we are. We want to be renowned. We want everybody to know our name. So we are taking on all kinds of, well, more or less shady jobs. In this video, I am going to show you how to play this quite funny game. I'm going to show you how to set it up and what you can do during your turn. So let's look at this. We start by placing Jarren's trading post in the center of the table, and then placing the rest of the 24 location tiles in a 5x5 grid around that tile. Now we can place these in random order. We just need to make sure that the sewers, but also the two taverns, are not placed next to each other on this grid. We need to shuffle the NPC deck, but also the item deck. Place out 4 face-up cards on the trading board, but also 1 item deck and 1 NPC card on all of the 24 locations places out on the board itself. Except on Jarrens Outpost, but also on the 2 taverns in this city. Then each player needs to choose a character that they would like to portray as, and take their character board. They also need to take a standee corresponding to that character. Take these little wooden tokens here and place 1 on 12 on their player board next to the heart. But also place 1 on the prestige board next to their character's portrait. Then they need to take their movement cards, again corresponding to that character, and whoever have made most crimes in real life or roll the highest number on the die takes the first player token. But then we also need to place out our standee, and we can place out our standee on 1 of the 2 available taverns, and we need to place our standee facing 1 of the adjacent locations. Now, adjacent in this game is always side by side and not diagonal. Then we need to shuffle the quest deck and put it face down on this space here on the notice board, and then place out faced up quest. The amount of quests that we should place here faced up is the same as the player counts in the game, plus 1. And next we have the turn counter. One side has 7 days and the other side has 10 days. Depending on how long game you have, you should place that side facing up, and then put a counter on the first day. So what is this game about? Well, this game is about you getting prestige. You want to be famous, and the way that you will become famous is, well, by doing quite despicable things. You will do murders, you will steal, and take on all kinds of more or less questionable quests. You will use your little character here, move around this town, meet different peoples, take on different jobs, and get prestige. The player with the most prestige at the end of the game is the winner. The game itself plays out during 1 week. In the game, that is, not in real life, because man, that would be a long game. No, in the game you will go through a week trying to get as much prestige as you possibly can. The game itself plays out during 3 different phases. But before we look at the actions and all the phases, let's look at your player board. So this here could be your future character board. Now, let's look at what all of this information means. Let's start in the center. Now, this one here is your skill, because from time to time you will need to make a skill test, meaning that you would need to roll this die. And depending on what skill you are trying to complete, you will have different numbers that you need to pass. And you will need to get equal to or higher to be able to succeed. Everything else is a failure. Beneath that one we have attack. Again, we would need to roll a die, but in this case the red one here instead. Again, we would need to reach a certain number to be able to succeed, either equal to or higher, and everything else would be a miss. Beneath that we have the damage that we do when we attack and actually succeed to hit our opponent. In this case here we will do 1 damage, and most of the characters in this game actually do 1 damage, but we can use items in this game and they will modify the value on the die, not the value on your board itself, meaning that they will add on to the values that you roll. It can, however, add on to your damage value. Now next over here we have a character ability, and each character has a unique ability. These abilities might be passive or active. To keep track on if your special ability is active or inactive, you can use this seal token, with a full seal on one side and a split seal on the other side. And up here we have the health tracker. Now every time we take damage, we move this token down. And every time we gain health, we would move it up. As you can see here, there are some small marks beneath each of the different backpacks. This means that every time this one moves lower than these marks, we would lose the capability to carry these items. At the start of the game we have 4 spots, but as your damage marker moves down on this track, we will eventually lose spots, until we manage to get the health back, that is. If our token ever reaches the skull down here, we are considered to be defeated. In that case, we would take our little character standee here and put it on one of the taverns. We would lose all our remaining turns of that day and anything in our backpack. But we would get to replenish all our health and start planning for tomorrow. So these backpacks here are where you will stash your future items, meaning that you simply put it above one of the spaces. Most character has 4 item slots, meaning that they can carry 4 small items, or 2 large items, or a combination of those 2. You can also stash NPCs here, because every now and then you will meet different peoples that you might be able to take with you. Now these NPCs are large, if nothing else is stated. Next and finally we have the move bar down here. And this is where we would place our move cards, because each player have their own movement cards. And when we place them out here, we would resolve them from left to right. So we take these movement cards and we place them here. But what does the information mean? Well, here we can see which character the card belongs to. Below that we can see the name of the movement card. And here we can see the move actions itself, where they start, what you will do, and what end facing you will have. Because once your character standee is out on the grid in town, well, depending on where you are facing, that is the way you will move in future movements as well. And down here we can see the move action. This is what your character does and where they face. Meaning that we actually need to start all the way down here to figure out what will happen. And then carry out whatever actions it says up here. But I will show you the actions in a little bit. So now that we know what our character board means, but also a little movement cards here means, we are ready to take a look at the different phases. And the first phase is the planning phase. Because, well, the people in this town just love to plan ahead. But then again, who doesn't, right? Now, this is where we would choose 4 movement cards of the 7 availables. And then we place them face down on this movement track that I just showed you. Now these 4 cards here will determine what you will be able to do and how you will move during the second phase, because the second phase is the adventure phase. And this is where we will actually do the different actions. Now, during each of the different days, you will be able to use all of your 7 movement cards again. Because just because you did one thing yesterday doesn't mean that you can't do it again the next day. Once all players are done with their planning phase, well, we will move into the adventure phase. And this is where, well, we will go out on our adventure. And depending on what movement cards we have placed, in which order we have placed them, we will of course be able to move and do different things during the adventure phase. Now, the adventure phase plays out during morning, noon, evening and night. Meaning that first, the starting player, the one that has the starting token, remember? gets to do their morning phase. So they would reveal their movement card, meaning the first card in the row going from left to right, do whatever that card says. Now once you have flipped your card over and you have done your movements, you also need to deal with whatever consequences you are facing before we are moving on to the player on our left. So now you have flipped over your card, you have moved, and you deal with whatever you are facing on the space that you are now. Once you have dealt with those consequences, well, the turn would go on to the player on your left, who would then flip over their next movement cards, move, deal with the consequences, and then again the turn would move on to the player on their left as well, and they would do their morning phase. And this is the way we would go through morning, noon, evening and night. Flipping over a movement card, moving out on the board itself, dealing with the consequences and then moving on to the next player. And once all players have gone through morning, noon, evening and night, we would have gone through a complete day. Flipping through our cards, moving, dealing with consequences and so on. But what can you actually do during your turn? Well, you can do quite a lot. So let's look at that. Let's start by looking at movement. Well, when you move, you follow the instructions on this card. And it's not that hard, because it says down here what will happen. Here, for example, charge. You will move 1 space forward, deal 1 damage, and then move another space forward and start a fight. Now, you only do whatever this card says if you can. For example, if the card would instruct you to move out of the play area, you would of course not do that, because, well, that's just not a part of this game. But everything that you can do, you will need to resolve. Next action is interact, meaning this hand here. And you can actually interact with everything that is on the location that you're at. Meaning that if you want to interact with an item, for example, well, you simply interact with it. Meaning that you take it and you put it in your backpack. It's just that simple. Just make sure that you have the space for it. And if you don't have the space for it, well, then you might need to discard another item. You can also interact with some of the locations themselves, if they have this part down here, meaning a hand and a text. In that case, you simply do whatever the text tells you to do. And then you can also choose to interact with whatever NPC is on this location. You can force them to follow you by putting them into your backpack. Now, that might seem unfriendly, but hey, they might like it. Friendly NPCs will actually just follow along without asking any questions at all. But you can't just pick up a hostile NPC, because then you would need to take damage equal to half the damage shown on their card, rounded up. And NPCs counts as large items, meaning that they will take up 2 slots in your backpack, unless anything else is stated. Or you can choose to rest. Here you would get to take your standee and face it in any direction you would like to. And then you would heal 1 damage. Because we all need to take a little break now and then, right? Then you can choose to attack an NPC on your location. To do this, you simply declare that you are attacking this NPC. And then you would need to roll a die. The red die, remember? Now, if you get equal to or higher than whatever your player board is saying, you have successfully attacked this NPC and dealt whatever amount of damage that you are dealing at the moment. When you deal damage to an NPC, you put out these damage tokens. If you ever reach whatever health they have, well, then you have managed to defeat this NPC. And then you would remove them from this space here and put them at the bottom of the NPC pile. But if you don't manage to defeat them, they will hit you back by whatever amount their card says. When you see this little book here, you would need to make a skill test. Again, we would need to roll a die, but in this case it would be the blue die. Again, we would need to get equal to or higher than whatever our player board is saying. and add any modifiers. If we get equal to or higher, then we pass. If we get lower, well then we would fail. If we pass, we would get to do whatever the text says. And when you are attacking or being attacked, remember to always look at your items, because you might have something that will give you extra powers, extra damage, or maybe neglected damage. And remember that once you have done your action, you would also need to deal with the consequences of whatever you have done now. And this could be a hostile NPC simply trying to take a jab at you. It could be a friendly NPC that you have attacked but not killed that will attack you back. Or it could be any location effect that might happen right now. And you would simply have to deal with that. I mean, you made the choice, right? As you can see, there are no items on Jarren's trading post and no NPCs on the 2 taverns. That's because you can find these on the tavern board. So there are actually quite a lot of items on these spots, but they are located on the tavern's board instead of the tiles out on the table. So that's the actions that you can do during the adventure phase, which is quite a lot. And once you get a hang of the movement cards and how to use them in the right way, you can get a lot of things done during your day. But why would you want to do all of this? I mean, what's the goal of it, right? Well, that is where these little quest cards here comes in. Because on these quests, well, you can see whatever you need to do. In this case here, you need to drop off a friendly fort guard at the city gates. And this would give you 1 prestige. So once you have done whatever the quest says, well, this card is simply removed. You get the prestige and a new quest will be available. And these are replenished right away. So during the adventure phase, you can do one of the actions that I have just shown you, but there are actually some free actions as well. And these could be any character's special abilities that you have on your player board. It could be dropping an item, it could be an NPC consuming an item. There are some free actions here, but I will let you figure that out all by yourself. When the adventure phase is done, we go into a quick cleanup phase. And now we would need to refill the tavern's board, but also NPCs out on the board, if it is round 3 or 6. Let's look at that. We would need to take the fort card in the NPC row and put it at the bottom of the NPC deck. Slide all the NPCs 1 step to the right, and then refill the first spot with the top card from the NPC deck. If there would be 0 cards in the deck, we would take the fort card and place on number 1 and push everything to the right instead. And then we need to do the same thing with the items. We would need to move the token 1 step to start a new day. And on day 3 and 6, before the planning phase, we need to take a look at the village itself. If there is any locations that do not have an NPC or an item, we would now need to refill them with either an NPC or an item. Or if it is completely empty, both of them. And once we have played through all the days, we have come to the end of the game. Then we would need to look at the prestige board to see who has the most prestige. And whatever player that has the most prestige is the glorious, well-known, prestigeful winner of this game. And now everybody in Jarrens Outpost know who you are. Jarrens Outpost is a fun way of doing dungeon crawler in an easier way. There's not hours of setup here. There's not a 70 pages thick rulebook. Now this is just you putting up a game that is quite easy to learn for all players, new and more experienced ones. And just set up to get an adventure. Go out to get items, do some battlings, travel around the town and have a really good time. This is all about fun. I mean, of course, you want to win the game, but a big part of this game is just for you to go out in town, explore, gather items, and just have a really good time. I would say that if you are into adventure games, if you're into dungeon crawlers, well, then this game is probably for you. There are a lot to explore here, there's a lot of different characters for you to play, there's a lot of NPCs to meet, there's a lot of items to gather. And even if you're into more heavier dungeon crawlers like I am, or if you're into lighter games, well, I think this will work for all. And this is a great introduction game for RPGs or dungeon crawlers as well. So if you ever have wanted to get into dungeon crawlers, or if you have friends, families that want to get into, well, the more board gaming world, this is a great entry to get them into it. And if you look at the artwork on this game, you can see that this game is made to be played to have a good time and have fun. It's not that serious artwork, there's no bloody pictures here, it's all light, it's all cartoonish, it's all just plain good fun. And with that, my friend, I will let you take on the journey of Jarrens Outpost. A fun, playful, colorful game, really for all ages. I mean, maybe not for the small kids. There are still battles here, there are fights. As long as they can read the text on the cards and they understand it, I think they can be a part of this. But it is quite playful, it is quite fun, and also, for me, a more experienced player, I had a lot of fun with this game, because there's a lot of things you can do, there's a lot of journeys you can go out on, there's a lot of little adventures here, there are quite a few quests, quite a few different characters, there's a lot of replayability here. I mean, you can set it up, you can have a fun time, you can play it, and you'd want to do it later again. If you want to know more about this game, well, check out the links down in the description, and it will take you straight to whatever you want to know. If you like what I'm doing here, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, send the video to your grandma, maybe she will appreciate it, I don't know. But most importantly, my friend, please remember to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have, and complete some quests.